Hello, welcome. Thank you for watching in to this, the third in our series of midweek reflections for Lent from St Paul's, Glenageary. This week we reflect on living in an online world. In 1977, Ken Olsen, then the president of the Digital Equipment Corporation, said there is no reason anyone would want a computer in their home. Just 44 years later, I think it's fair to say he got that one wrong. I was late to the game, but I got my first personal computer in the mid-1990s, which ran on the Windows 95 operating system, and I sent my first email not long afterwards. I was only half joking when I sought assurance from the sales assistant at the time that there would be no way I could blow my new computer up if I pushed the wrong button. Nowadays, my daily routine is severely disrupted, and my blood pressure rises to dangerously high levels when my current computer does not work as it should or the internet is down. Even after 25 years or so using computers, I can still only get so far. Then I need assistance. My adult children, now in their mid-20s, have grown up with all this technology, and they look at me incredulously when I cannot manage to do something that is second nature to them. I remember seeing my first mobile phone at the end of the 1980s in Rathmines. It was after a meeting in Church House when a few of us went locally for some lunch. 4 young suited executive types came in, each carrying what looked like a brick with an aerial in one corner, and they each placed a phone in the middle of their table, and that hardly left any room for a plate. Everyone present stared at these alien devices, and we were all very disappointed when none of them received a call. Today my smartphone fits into my pocket, and I never intentionally leave the house without it. It can tell me how many steps I take every day. It maps my morning cycle ride. It makes sure I never get lost on holidays anymore. It takes photographs. It allows me to receive and send emails. And lately it has even become an extra security device with a nickname, so that I can access online banking. It probably has as much memory as my first personal computer, and it has thousands of other applications, most of which I have never used. You can even speak to someone using it. To date, I have deliberately avoided the numerous social media platforms that have experienced astonishing growth in recent years. And I realise that makes me a dinosaur in an online world. But hopefully I will never be forced into using them. I am content to stay away from social media until my own extinction. It is truly mind-blowing and difficult to comprehend the rapid changes and developments in the digital and online world in recent years. No sooner have you bought a new device or operating platform and it's almost deemed obsolete. So you have to be comfortable with living in constant flux. And today you must also learn to disguise your embarrassment if your phone is more than a year old. It's probably too soon to evaluate the consequences of all this for human interaction and family relationships. As people increasingly relate to each other through social networking, will that have the effect of further atomizing society into self-sealed human units? Or does it open a much wider range of social contexts? Will future generations only relate to the rest of the world through a screen? Or will they be enriched beyond measure by all that they can access through a few swipes or clicks? In those days when we could still go to restaurants or bars, one of my pet hates was when a young couple would come in, sit down opposite each other at the table, and the first thing they did was to get out their smartphones. Instead of talking or otherwise paying attention to each other, they would then spend most of their evening looking at their respective screens. I find that incredibly sad, and do worry that our devices and the world that they give us access to could easily become an addiction. Will most people become more comfortable in a virtual world rather than the real world? Will we soon forget how to converse with each other face to face? Whatever new technology may be coming next, we must also be concerned about the widespread misuse of the internet. Cyberbullying, racist abuse, grooming and stalking is widespread. It is a ruthless and lawless world out there. And nor is it any longer the stuff of science fiction to reflect on what could happen if there is a system failure or an act of cyber terrorism on a global scale. Either could bring about the meltdown of essential services on a colossal scale, leaving humankind helpless. The advances of the digital age are stupendous, and they've enabled us to communicate, educate, inform, innovate, design, and so on in astonishing ways. Human creativity is a wonderful gift, and we must celebrate it and share in it. Our creativity marks us out as being made in the image of a creator God. Let us not forget, however, that humanity has a propensity to corrupt, an uncannily ability to turn good things bad. Knives that can cut fruit from a tree can take life from a young person on the street. Gas can heat our homes or slaughter Jews in a concentration camp. Jet engines can fly us around the globe or power weapons of mass destruction. History has shown that human beings can mess up anything, and you can be sure it will mess up in the digital world too. However, believers must invade the digital space. We cannot afford to be left behind. Because misuse of the internet is so common and widespread, Christians should stand out as those who write and post with care and with a different kind of online behaviour. Behind each tweet or blog or Facebook entry is a real person with real needs reading those words. Christians can lead by example by always trying to write responsibly and graciously after the manner of Christ. Christians in the church need to take full advantage of the extraordinary benefits the online world can now offer. Since our buildings have been closed due to COVID restrictions, worship here, as elsewhere, has moved online, and that will probably remain as a permanent feature of church life. The obvious question now is, will most people still want to gather physically again as we traditionally did, or in future will people choose to stay at home, availing of the option to worship at their own convenience in the comfort of their own home? What might be the long-term implications be? Will we need as many church buildings, for example? Most of us have probably never heard of Zoom until a year ago. Now many of our meetings, both within and outside the church, routinely use it or a similar platform. Church has always been a gathering of people. Church is the original social platform. Looking forward, will we have to explore new ways to encourage people to physically come together? The way the church communicates has already changed enormously, and it has been accelerated by the pandemic, and that will develop even further. We must always remain conscious, however, of those who will be at a disadvantage now because they have no access to, nor any desire to use the internet. As Christians, when we survey the achievements of the digital world, we have one general test we must always apply. How does this look in the presence of Jesus Christ? When you put the person of Christ alongside what appears on the internet, some is wonderfully in tune with him, and some badly out of tune. There are worlds to discover and enjoy, and there are worlds that will drag us down to base level. The test is always Jesus Christ as revealed in his life, death, and new life, in his teaching and healing, in his affirmation and challenge.